Hi guys, it's Sheena from Teton Raptor Center and I'm here to give you all this week's patient update. So let's go ahead and get started. First up, I want to highlight one of our most recent releases. This is Golden Eagle 8622. You heard me right, 2022. So this was a bird we transferred to a falconer. It was a young Golden Eagle. Here she is going back to the wild. Moving on to our current patients, we're going to kick things off with American Kestrel 726. This bird came from Rigby, Idaho, with some head trauma as well as some trauma to the right eye. His right eye actually has a corneal ulcer, and so this is basically a scratch on the eye that has gotten a little infected, and so we're treating with antibiotic eye drops, and then we're also caring for the wound on the top of his head daily. Next up this week is a really interesting bird. This is Bald Eagle 722, and she's a 3-year-old bird, so that's why she does not have her full white head and white tail yet, but you can see that parts of her body are starting to turn white on her head, kind of around her beak and under her eye. Speaking of her eye, she is dealing with pretty severe eye trauma to her left eye, which you can't see in this photo, but you'll be able to see in the next clip. We think that because of that pretty severe trauma, it led to emaciation, as she probably had a hard time hunting. You can see as we get closer in on this photo, her right eye appears normal and her left eye looks really deflated and the pupil's abnormal. The other cool thing about this bird is that she came in with USGS bands on both of her legs. One is a silver band and one is this red band that you can see here in the photo that we're zooming in on. And the cool thing about bird bands is that you can look up the numbers and letters, sort of like a license plate on these guys, enter them into the bird banding laboratory database, and it will spit out information about when the bird was banded and where it came from. So as soon as we get that information back from the database, we are really excited to share that. We do believe that these red bands typically come from a person in Arizona, so it's possible that this bird made its way all the way up here from the Arizona area. Next up this week are our 2 red-tailed hawks. We've got Red-tailed 722 hanging out in the back corner, and then we've got Red-tailed hawk 714 front and center here. Both juveniles are perfectly healthy, and we are hoping to get them back out to the wild once we find a suitable location and once they have more flight feathers. You can see that it almost looks that they're full size, and it also almost looks like they've got all their feathers, but if you look at the bird in the back, you can see his tail is not very long yet, and so we have to wait for those flight feathers to fully come in before we feel good about releasing these guys, just because we want to make sure that they're fully flighted and don't end up on the ground stuck. Next up is American Kestrel 721, and this bird came in from Idaho Falls. He is dealing with some spinal trauma, so right now we are doing cold laser therapy once a day, and we're also doing physical therapy on his legs and toes once a day. This will just help keep him moving and keep his body in good function while he is not fully able to stand up on his legs right now. Next up, we've got all of our Swainson's hawk juveniles. So we've got Swainy 77, 79, and 712. 2 of these birds are from Idaho Falls, and 1 is from Newdale, Idaho. So all Idahoans here, and they are sharing an enclosure. All healthy fledglings that we hope to return and reunite back to the wild once they're a little bit older and are capable of flight. Next up, we've got Great Horned Owl 711, and this is the juvenile great horn that came from Teton Valley, Wyoming. We were worried that he might be a victim of West Nile virus after getting a bad mosquito bite, so we started him on a course of medication to help with that. As you can see, all of his flight feathers have completely pinched off, and this is his wing. So it definitely is super abnormal. Even a baby bird like this, they should not have a wing that looks like that. So we're going to do another 2 weeks of supportive care for this little guy in the ICU and see how it goes after that. Next is Bald Eagle 710. This bird came from Idaho Falls, and she is dealing with some pretty severe feather damage not as severe as the great horned owl you saw in the previous photo, but enough so that she is non-flighted as a result of really poor feather damage. So we do anticipate she'll be here for a while with us until she regrows those new feathers, and that process can take several months, up to a year even. She is on a feather supplement, similar to like a vitamin supplement that we're putting on her food, so hopefully that will help with feather growth. Next is Great Horned Owl 77 from LaBarge, Wyoming. This bird is dealing with some eye trauma. You can see that as we zoom in, there is some goopy, globby structures around the sides of the eye, underneath that nictitating membrane that you just saw open. And this is something we're treating with eye drops several times a day. This bird is also healing from a broken ulna in her left wing. The wing seems to be healing really nicely, but she will have to be in the ICU for another few weeks until that bone is fully healed. Next up, we've got Golden Eagle 76. This bird just recently began flight conditioning and originally came in from Kemmerer, Wyoming with some eye trauma and then some soft tissue damage to the left side of the wrist, foot, and knee. All three of these injuries, the soft tissue damage to those areas, as well as the eye trauma, have fully resolved, and this bird is flying beautifully in the flight barn. Last but not least this week is Golden Eagle 39. This is the bird that came in from Green River and was missing several feathers due to a fracture that occurred at the metacarpus. Those feathers are growing in really beautifully, so we hope to be able to begin flying this bird in another couple of weeks. All right, that's all we've got for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed learning more about our birds. Remember that if you want to do your part to help keep wild birds wild, you can check out our website at tetonraptorcenter.org and make a donation. I'm also going to link that donate button in the description below, so be sure to click on it there. Bye!